final question for the improving performance option is question 30C, where it asks students to analyse 2 training types used to improve performance by an athlete in a sport of your choice. This question was worth 12 marks. Some key things here, again, obviously being the key term, the fact that students have to look at 2 training types, how they're going to improve performance in a sport of their choice. So the students need to show the relationship between the training type and how that's going to improve performance and being related to a sport. And they need to do that for 2 different types of training. And as I said earlier, the question is worth 12 marks. If we go and have a look at our syllabus, we'll see that this question relates to the part here. It looks at strength training. So for the training types, it's going to be strength training, aerobic training, anaerobic training, flexibility training, and skill training. That's the area. They're the areas there of the syllabus that students can choose from in terms of the 2 training types. If you look at the Learn 2 for a minute, analyse 2 of the training types by drawing on current and reliable source of information. Exactly as our question asks us to do. Analyse 2 training types. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any of those 5 would have been acceptable. This first answer we're going to look at here is a poor answer because it just shows a lacking of syllabus content. Right, straight away this student started to talk about short interval training, and that will be a part of anaerobic training. So it hasn't even got the correct syllabus dot point in. Right, he's just gone with an aspect of the dot point being short interval training. So there's a lack of understanding of the syllabus straight away for this response. At least it's highlighted, which is pleasing. At least there's some examples here which relates to it. We turn over the page. Okay, and the same thing's going to apply here. You'll notice as we come down to that's finishing off the first part of the question. If you come down here to the second part of the answer, it says another type of training is continuous training. All right. Again, continuous training is an aspect of aerobic training. So it isn't actually a type of training. It is an aspect of aerobic training. So again, that's an issue with knowing the syllabus. More revisions required for the syllabus there for that sort of question. Again, at least there's some highlighting. There's some examples included, but it's a poor response, and it needed more information than that one there. We can compare that to a stronger answer. All right, just to go back very quickly, we have a look at what the question's asking us to do. Just again, the question asks us to analyse 2 training types used to improve performance by an athlete in a sport of your choice. If we look at the answer, the first part of the answer, 2 types of training, one being flexibility and the other one being aerobic continuous training here. There's the second one. So there's our 2 areas that we need to look at. So what we need to do here is we need to look at this type of training, so flexibility. How is static, dynamic and ballistic flexibility training going to improve performance? And it needs to be related to a sport. Same with aerobic. We need to look at continuous, uniform, fartlek and long interval training. We need to relate that to a sport to show how it can improve performance. So we go and start and have a look at the answer for this student. 2 key training types used to improve performance by an athlete in soccer. So straight away we've got the sport in there we're going to look at, incorporate flexibility training and aerobic training. So the student's able to include the sport straight away. He's going to relate his examples to soccer, which is what part of the question asks us to do, a sport of his choice. We go over the page and we're looking again, this answer continues on. We start looking at things such as flexibility training, the static training, dynamic training. We've got examples in there. It's all set out correctly, it's highlighted. It shows how it can improve performance. Finishes over the page with ballistic stretching. So there's the 3 areas there of flexibility training, which have all been included. All right, and it shows some examples, and it shows ways in which it's going to lead to improving performance. Then we move on down the bottom to the second part, because remember we asked for 2 different types of training types, and we've gone the second one being aerobic training. First aspect of aerobic training, again we're relating to soccer, so there's our sport we need to look at. We've got continuous or uniform training, how this is going to enhance it. All right, we've got over the page, we then go to that part of the question carries on. We've got examples in here, which is fine. All right, we then come to fartlek training, again looking at how it's going to improve performance relating to soccer. And we finish off with long interval training. So the two different types of training have been included, all areas in the syllabus. They've been incorporated to soccer. Okay, you can see soccer there again in all these examples. The examples being given throughout have been related to soccer. Again here, soccer. So it just shows that the student's been able to read the question carefully, know what they're being asked to do, and come up with all different areas to get a decent score. This one's scored a 9 out of 10, which I still think is a pretty fair response. Just looking at the feedback from this question overall for all students, it says most candidates in this question required greater depth and detail in discussion. This being an option question, students have studied training types and methods in detail. As a result, a thorough understanding of these training methods was required. However, in general, students were able to identify 2 types of training. However, some students became confused with types and methods of training and principles of training. So there's a confusion there between the types of training and the principles of training, which we were asked about earlier on in the exam. Most students were also able to describe the main features of these types of training and provide some examples of the methods. Example, aerobic training, continuous uniform fartlek. The better responses were able to apply these methods specifically to a nominated sport, remembering the question asked us to choose a sport of our choice, providing clear and relevant examples of how the type of training could be employed for that sport. Superior responses, so a band 6 level, then related the implications that would result in terms of performance for these athletes in the nominated sport. That's what all students were asked to do, to look at 2 types of training, how it's going to improve performance, and relate it to a sport. That's the band 6 response. That's what students needed to do. Unfortunately, some students made general sweeping comments such as, this will lead to ideal performance, which isn't really telling us how that's going to improve performance. How is it going to lead to an ideal performance? What's it going to change? Without actually stating what about their performance will improve as a result of the training.